In this series of videos we'll be using the mouse to operate Sage, but you can also use the function keys, Control plus keys, and also Alt plus. And if you're a fast typist and have a lot of data to enter, these will be an absolute blessing. If we start with the shortcut keys, if you go to the Help menu and click on Shortcut, Sage brings up a nice little diagram of what each of the function keys does, and you can actually do a little screen grab of this and print it out and paste it on your desk somewhere for quick reference, or you can just keep going back to Help, Shortcut keys every time you need to remind yourself how they work. If we just work through these from the left hand side here, F1 for online help. Wherever you are in the program, whatever you're doing, if you press F1, Sage will bring up the list of relevant help topics for that particular procedure that you're trying to carry out. So if I just close that for a minute and go to something like customers, and let's say I want to do a batch invoice. If I click on that and then press F1, Sage comes up with a bit of help text to tell you how to post a batch customer invoice, which I think is really brilliant and very clever. I'm going to shut that again, close the customers, and go back to the shortcut keys. F2, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, if you press F2, that will bring up the calculator for you. F3 is for use when you're creating invoices through the invoicing module. F4 for quick ref, wherever you are entering data, say you're entering a batch supplier invoice and you just want to find the supplier reference. If you press F4 on the little drop down arrow, Sage will bring you up a list of all the supplier accounts, and then you can select the one you want from there. F5 will do a little spell check for you. F6, copy field increment, sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But what it actually means is that it will copy the line above. So let's say you're putting in a supplier invoice again, and the detail that you've put in the details line in the first line of the invoice, you want that to be the same in the second line. When you get to that field, you can just press F6 and Sage will essentially duplicate the information above, which saves an awful lot of retyping. F7 is to insert a line. So let's say you've been posting a bank payment with 3 separate detail lines, and you've put all 3 in, and then you've suddenly realised you've got to put another one in, but it's second in line, so it's the second line. You just press F7 and it will insert a line above the third. So if you pressed on the third line, it'll insert a line above the third line, which will then make that the second line. That's really useful. And the same with F8 for delete lines. So if you've typed a load of stuff in and there's one line in there that isn't right and you just want to get rid of it, you just press F8 on that line and it will delete it. F9 is an absolutely fabulous little feature, which means that when you're posting values, if you've only got the gross amount, let's say £117.50, well, we all know what the VAT element of that is, don't we? But let's say we didn't, we could type in £117.50, press F9, and Sage will calculate the net and VAT, which would be £100 plus £17.50. F12 is defaulted to bring up the report designer, but as we'll see elsewhere when we're looking at configurations, you can actually set the F12 key to clear your screen, or essentially to minimize your Sage screen. So if you're working away and one of those nosy people comes in who just wants to see what you're doing and perhaps they shouldn't have access to financial information, you quickly press F12 and your Sage work will disappear and they won't actually get to find anything out. Okay, now control keys, a couple of examples here. Control page up when you're working in say a customer or supplier record will actually take you to the next tab, and control page down will take you to the last or the previous tab. So that's the shortcut keys. Close those. And incidentally, just thinking about function keys, they will only work if you've got the function mode switched on your computer. Obviously they can't work if you've got it switched off for some reason. Okay, and then looking at the edit menu up here, this is where you can use Control plus for one or two functions. So Control plus X is cut, Control plus C is copy, and then unfortunately Control plus V is for paste. So I'm not quite sure how you remember that one. X and C makes sense. I'm not sure about V. I'll see if I can come up with a little rhyme later to help you remember that one. And then your insert row, delete row and so on explained here. You can also use Alt-T, Alt-C, etc. And you can also use, in most places, you can use right click and then select your copy and your paste from there. So click away from that. And then just looking at some of the modules at the suppliers, for example. If you want to use the Alt keys to carry out any of these functions down here, if you press Alt and search, rather Alt and R, you'll see that the search window comes up. Then Alt and S will highlight all your suppliers in a swap, and so on. So Alt plus C will clear the selection. Okay, and so on like that. And obviously you can also use Alt plus O for the modules, Alt plus say Y for company, and so on like that. And when you're entering data, say a supplier batch invoice, you can also use the Alt key on various of the buttons at the bottom. And you can actually, say you're putting in a supplier invoice here, SD Enterprises, let's say, put in all the data, and then we're putting in that gross figure again that we talked about, £117.50. You can click on CalcNet to calculate the net, or you can just go Alt-C and Sage calculates it for you. So we'll close that because we don't want to keep it, don't want to save the changes, thanks. And I think perhaps the last thing then is the escape key, which you can use to close a window. So I've just pressed escape and the suppliers module is closed. Obviously I could also close it down here or here, but it's a lot quicker just to go escape. If you try to close a window where you're doing data entry, if you try to do that with escape, it will obviously, Sage will obviously warn you first that you haven't saved any of the data before you tried to close the window. Okay, so that's a quick roundup of all the shortcut keys, which should really help you whiz away with all your data entry on Sage.